The movie begins with a woman named Cy Young stepping out of her car. Her legs have blood stains on them. She picks up a sledgehammer and drags it into an auto shop. We don't know what's happening yet, but Cy Young walks up to a man and hits him with the hammer. The story then takes us to the past. Cy Young, a martial arts champion who was in the Korean Special Forces and worked as a bodyguard, comes home after being in prison. Her sister, Yoon-hae, who has autism, is very happy to see her. The sisters are very close and have always looked after each other. They promise to stay together and never leave each other again. That night, they talk, hug, and spend time together. Si-young gives Yoon-hae a pretty hairpin as a gift. Before going to sleep, Yoon-hae says she doesn't like going to school. Si-young encourages her to stay in school because it was their late father's wish. The next morning, Si-young sees that Yoon-hae has gone to school. Yoon-hae also leaves Si-young a gift, a red dress and red heels. She writes a note asking Si-young to spend more time with her so they can support each other. This makes Si-young realize she needs to take better care of her sister. At school, Yoon-hae faces bullying because of her autism. This is why she doesn't want to go to school anymore. After school, the bullies force Yoon-hae to go with them. Meanwhile, Si-young is trying to restart her career as a bodyguard by applying to rejoin her old team. She meets with a recruiter who praises her skills as a fighter. However, he tells her he can't hire her because she has a criminal record from a previous attack. The bullies take Yoon-hae to a karaoke place and force her to wear revealing clothes. When Yoon-hae says she wants to go home, they introduce her to 3 boys involved in illegal activities. The boys have a plan to use Yoon-hae to trick older men. They would send Yoon-hae, disguised as a prostitute, to meet older men in a hotel room. Then the boys would barge into the room, pretending to rescue Yoon-hae. Their real goal is to steal the men's wallets. The boys are confident the men won't report them to the police because the men wouldn't want to admit they were with an underage girl. While this is happening, Si-young keeps trying to call Yoon-hae, but her sister doesn't answer. Feeling worried, Si-young searches the streets but can't find her. Things become even more alarming when Yoon-hae doesn't come home the next morning. Si-young decides to wear the red dress and shoes that Yoon-hae gave her and visits her sister's school. However, she can't find Yoon-hae anywhere. When she talks to Yoon-hae's homeroom teacher about her concerns, the teacher dismisses them, saying it's normal for teenagers to go missing for a few days. As Si-young is about to head home, one of Yoon-hae's classmates speaks up out of concern. The classmate shows Si-young a video where Yoon-hae is being forced to take off her clothes by the school bullies. This makes Si-young furious. She goes to the karaoke place to confront the bullies. There, she beats them up and forces them to tell her where they took Yoon-hae. Using the information from the bullies, Si-young tracks down one of the boys involved and attacks him too. When she has him pinned to the ground, he finally confesses that they no longer have Yoon-hae. The boy explains that during their last scam, they stormed into a hotel room only to find a dangerous gangster named Sang-man. Sang-man refused to let Yoon-hae go and scared the boys away. They abandoned Yoon-hae and ran off. The only clue they have now is the gangster's phone number, which he used to book the hotel room with Yoon-hae. Si-young repeatedly tries calling the number but doesn't get an answer. She also tries reporting Yoon-hae's disappearance to the police, but they don't take her seriously. The police suggest that Yoon-hae might have just run away. Frustrated by how long it would take to prove Yoon-hae was kidnapped, Si-young decides to handle the situation on her own. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Sang-man is meeting with a human trafficker to sell Yoon-hae for cash. Yoon-hae is locked in a room, crying and begging to be freed. Instead of helping her, the trafficker's assistant slaps her. Si-young is actively searching for her sister and goes to the address on the gangster Sang-man's business card. She doesn't find Sang-man there, but meets one of his workers who lives at the address. Si-young beats him up to get information, and the man finally reveals the license plate number of Sang-man's car. She takes the worker's car keys and a stun gun before leaving. Meanwhile, the human trafficker, after completing his deal, goes to Yoon-hae to assault her. However, Yoon-hae bites him, making him bleed. Back to Si-young, she tracks down the parking lot where Sang-man's car is located. She waits there until he shows up. When Sang-man arrives and gets into his car, Si-young starts following him. She calls his phone and demands to know where Yoon-hae is, but Sang-man refuses to answer. Once they reach a quiet street, Si-young rams her car into his. She steps out, tases him until he passes out, and ties a rope around his neck. When he wakes up, Si-young forces him to drive and reveal Yoon-hae's location. Sang-man resists, but Si-young tightens the rope around his neck, choking him. This causes him to lose control of the car and crash on the side of the road. After the crash, the two engage in a fierce fight inside the car. Si-young struggles because Sangman is just as strong as she is. Despite the struggle, Si-young manages to break Sangman's hand and force him to give her information about Yun-hai. She then searches through his phone and calls the human trafficker, pretending to be Sangman's assistant. The trafficker mentions he's unhappy with Yun-hye and plans to sell her to someone else soon. This pushes Si-young to rush to the trafficker's location, a large massage parlor. When she arrives, she notices the receptionist wearing Yun-hai's hairpin. Si-young immediately attacks the receptionist and demands to see the human trafficker. However, the trafficker tells her that Yun-hai has already been sold to someone else, making Si-young furious. She fights the trafficker, showing her strength. During the fight, he tries to stab her, but misses. The scuffle continues on the ground, and Si-young overpowers him by choking him with her thighs until he surrenders. The trafficker finally reveals that Yun-hai tried to call home before being taken away. When no one answered, she called someone at a mini-market for help, but they betrayed her and sold her to a client with the codename Lucky Supermarket. A man in a suit came to pick her up. After obtaining the phone number of Lucky Supermarket, Si-young quickly traces its location and rushes there. Meanwhile, Yun-hai is being driven in a car by the man in the suit, who we will now call Suits. While driving, Suits stops at a gas station to buy food, thinking Yun-hai is asleep in the car. Yun-hai uses this chance to escape and climbs onto a public bus. However, as the bus starts moving, Suits stops it and demands to come inside. He tells everyone that Yun-hee is his mentally ill sister and drags her off the bus. Despite her begging him to let her go, Suits feels conflicted, but still forces her back into the car and drives away. Meanwhile, Si-young is driving when the gangster in the trunk starts yelling, demanding to be let out. Frustrated, she stops the car and questions him again, before crushing his hand. She then thrashes the car around until the trunk pops open, causing the gangster to fall out. Si-young leaves him there and drives away. Suits and Yun-hai arrive at an old rundown building as instructed by Suits' boss, Councilman Park. It's revealed that Yun-hai's kidnapping wasn't random. Councilman Park has a personal grudge against Si-young and is using her sister as bait to draw her in. Although Suits secretly wants to help Yun-hee and Si-young, he's too afraid of Councilman Park, who is powerful and manipulative. It's also revealed that Lucky Supermarket is the name of a mini-mart near Si-young's home, where Yun-hai used to go often. Si-young goes to the mini-market where Yun-hai made her call and meets the elderly owner. Shockingly, the old man accidentally reveals that he used to sexually abuse Yun-hai while Si-young was in prison. This revelation enrages Si-young, and with tears in her eyes, she beats the man severely. As she tortures him and even cuts off his fingers, the man confesses that he wasn't alone. He and a group of his friends took turns assaulting Yun-hai. Fueled by anger, Si-young decides to track down each of these men to punish them. First, she visits a photographer's studio and finds Yun-hai's photo there. Without hesitation, she beats the photographer to get more information. The photographer eventually leads her to the scene from the beginning of the story, where Si-young confronts the owner of an auto shop and crushes his arm with a sledgehammer. In pain, the workshop owner admits that Councilman Park, the politician who imprisoned Si-young, is the one who has Yun-hee now. The workshop owner also reveals a dark truth from 3 years ago. He sexually assaulted Yun-hee in Park's car while it was being repaired in his workshop. Later, when the car was ready, Park found Yun-hai's underwear inside. The workshop owner explained to Park that the underwear belonged to a girl with a mental disability. Since then, Park became involved in abusing Yun-hee. This explains why Yun-hai was often late coming home, worrying Si-young. However, Yun-hai never told her sister what was happening. One day, Si-young becomes suspicious about why her sister often comes home late. She follows Yun-hai after school and sees her getting into a luxury car that takes her to a hotel. There, Si-young finds Councilman Park, who has drugged Yun-hai and is assaulting her. Enraged, Si-young attacks Park with a screwdriver and injures his eye. However, instead of saving Yun-hai without consequences, Si-young is arrested. Park uses his power as a politician to twist the story and send her to jail. After learning that Si-young has been released from prison, Park orders Suits to kill both Young and Yoon-hae. In the present, Young gets Suits' phone number and calls him, demanding to know where Park is. Suits, tired of the councilman's cruelty, reluctantly gives her Park's location. Young immediately sets off to confront him. She finds Park at a private estate guarded by bodyguards but is determined to face him. She takes down one guard with a taser and sneaks into the estate. When she finally finds Park, she holds a gun to his face and orders him to tell her where Yoon-hae is. However, Park calls for his bodyguards, forcing Young to fight all of them while he escapes in his car. Despite the challenge, Young uses her martial arts skills and some luck to defeat the guards. Afterwards, she gets back in her car and chases after Councilman Park. Young chases Councilman Park through traffic and rams her car into his. As their cars move side by side, she grabs a gun and shoots him, hitting his shoulder. Despite being injured, Park manages to escape. Angry and desperate, Park calls Suits and orders him to force Yoon-hae to consume a deadly amount of cocaine, even if it kills her. He also tells Suits to gather his henchmen to kill Young. However, Suits, feeling guilty and sorry for Yoon-hae, calls Young and reveals their location. When Young arrives, she is ambushed by Park's men. Meanwhile, Suits is discovered helping the sisters and is tied up and beaten by Park. Feeling betrayed, Park stabs Suits in the neck, killing him. Despite the ambush, Young survives and cleans herself up in a public restroom. She prepares for a final fight to rescue Yoon-hae. At the same time, Park, with his fake eye, waits for her to come for him. As Park's men prepare to bury Suits' body, Young makes a dramatic entrance by ramming her car into the group. The henchmen smash her car windows, forcing her to climb out and fight them. Using her martial arts skills, she defeats them one by one. Meanwhile, Councilman Park retreats inside the building where Yoon-hae is being held. Young continues fighting Park's henchmen, but eventually becomes overpowered. Park taunts her by proudly showing Yoon-hae through a window, making Young even more determined. Exhausted, she falls to the ground. One of the henchmen grabs her and prepares to slit her throat, but she quickly takes the knife and fights back. The gang, too confident in their numbers, underestimates her. Young uses their overconfidence to her advantage and defeats them all, walking away victorious despite being badly beaten. She heads inside the building and finds Yoon-hae barely conscious on the couch. Suddenly, Councilman Park attacks her from behind. He beats her, slams her against the wall, and manages to stab her in the stomach. Despite her injury, Young summons her remaining strength. She pins Park to the ground and beats him to death, ensuring he can no longer hurt anyone. With Park defeated, Young goes to her sister, and they share an emotional and loving embrace. Young, severely injured and clutching her bloody wound, focuses on one goal: getting Yoon-hae home safely. Despite the pain, she fights through it, determined to protect her sister no matter what.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.